Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Secretary Panetta and Secretary Pompeo, for your service to our country. As you know, we hollowed out a lot of our manufacturing in this country, and a lot of it went to China. China has a massive trade deficit. We still have a massive trade deficit with China, and China has trade surpluses with Japan, with South Korea, with India, engaged in unfair economic competition. Would you think it's reasonable for the United States to explicitly have a goal to try to reduce the trade deficit with China by 10% every year, or some metric, so that we can rebalance the relationship?
I think it is very important for the United States to be able to develop industry, manufacturing, develop those products that are important, particularly to our national security. And you're right, we've hollowed out that capability over the last few years. We need to be able to make clear that we are going to develop the kind of security that we need. And yeah, I think limits make sense as part of that package of developing our own capabilities and manufacturing and industry.
Secretary Pompeo?
Yeah, I'd add, seems largely right. I'd add only this. We should begin the focus on things that really matter as opposed to trade more generally. I'm happy to think our way through that, but the initial problem set is at the dual-use technologies, AI, all of the places where the next generation of American manufacturing will actually evolve from, right? The manufacturer, I ran a machine shop in Wichita, Kansas, probably the only Secretary of State with that in his background of even for the next 250 years. In the end, we ran machines, we were good, but in the end it was technology innovation and the intellectual property against which we were building those manufactured goods, which were most important to the workforce in my capacity to grow my business. And I think that's true today. We ought to make sure we protect those things. And we can get that right as a policy matter pretty straightforward. And I've watched as you all have tried to tackle that, and I hope you all can make even more progress there.
One of the things that I'm working on a bipartisan basis is seeing how we can have steel, and clean steel in particular, returned to the United States. I mean, hollowed out in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, Warren, Ohio, Downriver, Michigan. Keith Crotch, who worked for you, Secretary Pompeo, was one of the originators of the Chips and Science Act. I mean, that I give him credit, even as we worked with Todd Young and Chairman Gallagher was in an earlier part on the Endless Frontiers. And we did that for chips. Can we do that for steel, which is to say the next generation of steel, which is going to be direct reduction impact in Toledo or hydrogen? Why can't we lead in something like that and have the government partner with the Cleveland Cliffs on an issue like that, like we did for chips? I mean, we went from the largest exporter of steel, now 9 out of the 15 biggest steel companies are in China. So one, would you support a chips-like approach to new modern steel plants in the United States? And second, if you could just add, since then I'll give you the rest of the time, I don't understand how we're even thinking of letting Nippon Steel buy U.S. steel. I mean, Japan would never let us buy one of their steel plants. I mean, why is this even a question?
I guess I'll start with the second one and then the first one. I actually encourage foreign direct investment in the United States. I think it's incredibly important. It has created thousands and thousands of jobs in my hometown of Wichita, Kansas. Foreign companies who say, Japanese, European companies who want to come invest in America and create jobs. South Koreans now investing enormous amounts of money in Texas to build semiconductor fab. I think we should be enormously supportive of foreign direct investment when it wants to come here on American terms, and these are our friends and allies. Second, I did support the Chips and Science Act. It was with a touch of reluctance in my heart, but it was between Secretary Ross and myself and our two teams. And by the way, Secretary Raimondo has been fantastic on this. I credit the Biden administration for this. This was a set of technologies that mattered, and we had none of it here at home. I think that's the quintessential model for when someone needs to use American taxpayer dollars as a form of industrial policy. I think we need to be very careful about how and when we do that. And I prefer competition as the model, but when the competition is unfair and capital markets won't support an important technology for our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, then I think we can do that. And if someone could make the case that steel were so, I'd support it. I wonder if those industrial metals don't end up, if you put a tariff on them or a tax on them, if it doesn't end up costing the American industry more than it gains them.
Gentlemen's time expired. We have 4 minutes to do Molinar, Whitman, and Steele.